I guess.
Testing, testing.
You're thinking about going to therapy. And as a therapist myself, of course I'm going to say that's a great. You're thinking about going to therapy. And as a therapist myself, of course I'm going to say that's a great. You're thinking about going to therapy.
Testing, testing. Testing, testing. Testing, testing. I was thinking about um the story of thinking about story of I could be pronouncing it wrong, but Narcissus, how he fell in love with his reflection. And that's where they get the word narcissist from. And I don't use those words because we're just passing through. So I don't use words like that because to say someone was a narcissist against me or they did this or they did that implies that as a creator, I'm done creating. I'm done creating, and this person outside of me offended what I created. So, of course, I don't use words like that. Those words are energy blockages, but I still was thinking of the story, fell in love with the reflection. And I was thinking about how a reflection is a lower expression of the real. A reflection is a distorted expression of the real or a lower expression of the real. For example, you can look into the water, and even though the water has waves, you can still see a reflection or an expression on yourself, but it's not the real. It's simply a reflection or a shadow in a sense. I was thinking about the fact that just as you can look in the water and see your reflection in the waves or see that lower expression, everything that we express here is only a lower mimicry of the real, a lower expression of the real. Internally, or in actuality, we are not the body, but we took on these bodies and these physical brains took on physical meanings. And now we have these physical eyes. And now we express from the physical. We express the meanings that we took on. But just as you can look in the water and that reflection is not the real because it's just in the water with those waves, is the same way everything that we express here is simply something that derives from the brain waves. And so if you claim that you are not the body, why does everything that we express come from the physical, comes from the lower expression via the brain waves? And so even though we are love itself, in essence, we now have to say things like love yourself. The biggest form of duality, well, one of them I've heard a person say, I treat myself every weekend. I treat myself to something nice. Duality is not a lesson that you can learn in a video or a teaching. As supernatural beings, once we descended, we went into duality. So it's not a matter of learning what duality is. It is a matter of understanding and being sensitive enough to see that whenever you express, you go external. Whenever there is a need to express, you go external. Internally, in essence, there was never a need. And so there is a mindset that was created by this physical narrative. There was a mindset that created this physical narrative. And through sensitivity, you can transcend that mindset by muting the need to express. Through sensitivity, when you mute the need to express, you have transmuted the energy of the external. And through this transmutation, you dissolve the external expression that animates the body in its physicality to return back to the internal essence that you are. Whenever you express, there is a need to impress something or someone. In a sense, you can say we started off as clay or moldable energy, and that energy was impressed upon, and it created a persona that now has to impress others. When we came into this lower realm, it was due to an impression. An impression is a mold. It is to take something like clay and impress it. And a mold is a matrix. And so even though we claim to try to escape the matrix, it is not it is not a matter of the impression of the matrix escaping the matrix. It is a matter of being sensitive enough to release the impression, to release the external impression, to disassociate with the mold. The personality is the matrix. The personality in this physicality is a lower expression of the real. And now we treat ourselves because we fell in love with our reflection. There's Russian doll consciousness. The human mindset automatically needs to impress because it itself is an impression and it needs an external source or an external thing to keep itself alive. When I ascended, I was asked the question, why do I do the things that I do? If there was no one in the world with me, would I care about the things that I do? Would the things that I do really matter? This was a deep question because this question was a reminder. This question was a catalyst for me to renew the mind and remind who I was. And once I reminded who I was, I muted the mindset that was associated with the external need and went internal. Human consciousness automatically needs to impress because if there was no one observing it, none of the things that it does or did would have any value. And so, as I always say, we looked outside of ourselves, spent our energy on things outside, and got the shopper's value. And now, even the mindset that says, I don't need to impress anyone, was created through an impression. People sometimes ask me why I use metaphors or mysteries. I refer to the Bible when I think about this. I think there was a guy named Paul that says, man leaves mother and father and cleaves unto his wife. Even though this is a physical thing in this realm, he then went on to say, this is a mystery concerning Christ and the church. Even though in physicality, these things spoke of a physical union, He was saying this was only a mystery. This was only a reflection that spoke of the real. The external expression has created a veil, and once sensitive enough, the veil is lifted, and you go back to union with self. The idea of oneness didn't have to be, even though oneness is the deepest thing that can be talked about. Oneness was only created due to duality. So it's not a matter of the lower expression to attempt to return back to oneness, because the lower expression is the impression that the word oneness comes from, which means it'll never reach it by talking about it. It is a matter of being sensitive beyond the perspective of the lower version to release it enough to get home. Home is not a word. As a creator, home is whatever you give meaning to. Your body is a church, and as a creator, you are head of the church. And wherever you lay your head is your home. It's not a matter of giving meanings to things that's causing distortion and then saying, I want to go home. This is a distortion speaking. Everything in the lower version is a figure of speech because this figure is not real and it only speaks of a lower version of something. Again, Earth is an aptitude test in which source is the highest potential. It's not a matter of saying I'm going back to source. You must put a vibration within the temple that is equal to source. You must return to who you are. Yet that can't be said externally because what you are currently giving meaning to at this moment is you saying, this is who I am. There is no vain word spoken. What causes your ups and downs is because you are saying, this is who I am. If who you are is currently governed and limited by the reflection of the brain waves, then you fell in love with your reflection in the waters below. Narcissus. Fell in love with the struggle. Yet, for the time being, the struggle that you've infused in the body, which is not the true you, it is just a cocoon. In the great scheme of things, the caterpillar hangs itself and struggles, and the struggle strengthens its wings. So when it comes out of the cocoon, it can fly. Every experience that you stuffed in your brain was just for you. You speak from that persona thinking that it's you. Yet those things are an opportunity to transcend or surrender those perspectives for the real you to stand up. Because even though you think you're standing up, now you are not the body. And so to stand up in the lower realm is to actually be lying down in the spirit realm. The human consciousness says we are God by keeping the same mindset. You really understand what it's like to be born again, to be spiritually awakened. To be spiritually awakened is to be enlightened or awakened away from the mindset that you were currently of. To see God face to face is not an experience. If this is indeed a video game, it is indeed what happens when you transmute the laws of the game and you become who you really are in essence. For me, I realized before I died that everything I ever did was to impress someone else, even if I didn't think I was. If the meanings of this physical narrative governed me, I was automatically impressed upon, and I automatically was trying to impress someone else. If I gave external meaning to anything other than who I am, I was automatically trying to impress someone because those meanings were impressed upon me. This is understood when you weigh everything from the beginning, which is creational energy. When you are awakened, you realize that everything that you do is an impression if you're weighing things from creational energy. And that happens if you are awakened to being a creator. If there is no awakening, you're weighing things within the narrative. To weigh things within the narrative will only improve the limited mindset. There is no death in essence. There is only expansion, unlimited, unbound, unlimitless energy. There was death when there was conformity and there was a limit. And now we only see from that limit, and anything outside of that limit creates what we call fear. But for an awakened creator, they understand that even the fear, which is an indication of a limit, can be faced, transcended by surrendering the mindset, and that energy can be muted. And once you transmute that, you are who you are outside of that lower expression or lower reflection. Everything within your brain and your body is just for you. You are experiencing what you gave meaning to. As a creator, you are experiencing what you gave meaning to. And from that, I tell you, love is not a word. You are love. God is love. The experience outside of being that is a conditional persona that is looking for love. To look for what you already are indicates duality. Yet duality is not a word. This simulation's purpose is as a gauge that serves to tell you what you gave meaning to create a neatly packaged external contour to let you know your current state of being. There are some that are still within the world that go by the external, and there are some that break through the limited mindset. And as you do that, all others become bystanders that were impressed upon in the matrix as you transmute and transcend to become who you are in essence. What better way to transcend to be in a simulation in which we put on costumes, act out the versions or aspects or potentials of self so that others that believe in something beyond this are able to face their fears while they are around people that are still within the lower version asleep. What better way to do this than to walk amongst people that are still growing as you transcend? Then it becomes real. Your current persona is a collage of your beliefs. We talk the way we talk. We get up and do what we do based on our belief system. If that belief system, which is an invisible infrastructure that governs the body, is based on this physical infrastructure, then that is your way of saying you do not believe in something beyond this physical infrastructure. Love is not a word. It is your state of being. I like Genesis 1. It says they ate from the tree of duality and their eyes were open. If we're spirit beings, then what eyes were open? We are not physical bodies, yet these eyes were open. Yet we know they are simply pieces of meat that are transmitting perceptions via the brain waves. All of our problems, all of our ups and downs is simply conditional terms that we gave meaning to. And our unlimited creational energy is happily enforcing it. Just by being in your current state, you are automatically commanding your creational energy to limit you within the ups and downs, where there is an opportunity for expansion. You don't have to do anything. Life and death is simply in the power of your tongue. Everyone is trying to impress someone, whether you know it or not. Before I seen God, I would ask the question, if you were the only one in the world, would you do the things you do? Would you give meaning to the things that you give meaning to? And when this question was answered, and this question cannot be answered with your mouth, this question must be answered by embodiment. And when that question is answered in the purest way, you will see God face to face because you will see who you are in essence. You will be who you are in essence, not the impression of this narrative. Could I be handsome if there was no observer? Could you be pretty if there was no observer? If there was no one outside of you, could you be that? Therefore, even if you are pretty or handsome, you are automatically impressed upon by something external. And there is automatically a need to impress something external. Because if that is an attribute of the current persona, then it is automatically taking place. It doesn't need your consent. It is so easy for the lower version or lower conditioned version to say, be unconditional love, while the body houses every condition known to man. I like the passage that says Jesus was the image of the invisible God. The eyes focus like cameras. And what you focus on, you've taken a picture and accepted the image of this. And this as far as the magic expands. When you leave the visibility of the lower expression, you will return to the image of who you are in essence. You don't need to know these keys because the fact that we are not the body, you are automatically experiencing how you feel about these keys. You are in a body that's wired, nervous systems, brains. Think of the mind as the creator and think of the body as whatever you can create and put in it. The body is a trial like Pinocchio. If you put a vibration in it that equals the highest potential of source, you will decalcify the external expression and you will see God. This is not an experience that is random. Whenever you go external, whenever you express, you go external. Everything that makes you feel good externally can be transmuted because the goodness that you are looking for outside of yourself does not compare to the glorious energy that you are in essence. I once heard someone say, I'm going to treat myself. This speaks of duality. Duality is not a spiritual lesson. You are living it. None of these are spiritual lessons. As creators, we descended into a lower version, and their eyes are open. It is an awesome piece of technology that allows you to integrate into external concepts. But when you become more sensitive than those concepts, you begin to want to detox or fast from those things. Not a fast in a sense to where you keep the same mind and just say, I'm not going to do this. There is a breaking in this fast, and you enter into the dawn of morning. When this is realized, the energetic association of the mindset of who you are can be released. And as you go about your day, you can resist and detox that energy. And the body now becomes a cross that you're carrying because you're detoxing old habits, because your habits make up your habitation, and your habitation is your dwelling. And if you dwell in a lower version, then you are lying down habitually. A habitation or habitual lying that can be detoxed through sensitivity. I like the parable of the Bible. It says Satan, or the lower version, is father of lies. If you opened your eyes, you're not going to say it's you because you can't surrender what you see from. One of the biggest things you can do is question this reality simply because it is a lower version. The fact that we even have to believe in ourselves, belief is a powerful word. It is asking you to direct your energy beyond this realm. As a creator, when you direct your energy, why do you hope for and direct your energy to things in the visibility of the human mindset, when in essence we are much more? A Christian once told me, what do you believe in? You believe in this and that. And as I told you, I simply told them, but you believe that you're going to die and go back to a different realm if you be good. You believe that you're going to die and go back to a supreme being if you be good. That supreme being created, or the creator said it was good as you emerged in oneness of oneness. So it's not a matter of the lower version being good. Good must be your being. And if good must be your being, then this current narrative is simply a distortion in brain waves, which is a reflection on lower reality. Yet that is not a statement, that is something that is realized. When you understand that this world will never fulfill you, when you understand that you'll simply return home to who you are in essence, because you will release everything that made an impression on you. Peace shouldn't be something you're trying to obtain. Peace is just who you are. When you leave what was impressed upon you, it no longer have to impress. You won't simply say that I'm no longer bothered by the things people say. If you are born again, you'll understand that the things that we said spoke of the lower version or a past life. The lower version puts things in the past. Spiritual death is making the lower version a past life. The biggest thing you will ever do is be. The highest potential is you. Heaven is our natural state. Heaven is the natural state of being. That is the answer. Every answer that the lower self asks is due to the leaving of who you are in essence. Heaven is your natural state of being. Heaven is not something you can do because it's your natural state of being. So, what the hell are you doing?